Hi, welcome to Matt's Garage. It is paint day. Well, not paint, but undercoating. Today we're going to be applying Raptor Liner to the undercoating of my 66 Bronco. There are a ton of products on the market for undercoating. Herculiner, DuPont has something, there's a Rust-Oleum, there's one part, there's two part. I prefer the two parts. Obviously anything in the two part system is gonna have better adhesion. I used the Raptor Liner on the Scout, was very happy with the results. I used both the tintable one on the interior and the black on the undercoating. We're gonna use black on the undercoating of the Bronco. I also this time chose to go with Raptor's epoxy primer. That way I know, I didn't have any issue with the PPG primer, but in this case I know the products are designed to go with each other. The biggest issue with shooting undercoating is overspray. So let me show you what I've done to sort of combat that. Obviously I'm fortunate enough to have a lift, so I'm using it to my advantage, and I've created a makeshift spray booth using painter's plastic. I've taped off all the areas that I don't want undercoating to get on, obviously. And then, yeah, I can just walk in here, spray, and walk out. If you don't do this, you're gonna end up with specks of rubber undercoating all over your shop walls. This stuff has got more mass than regular paint, so it flies and it covers everything. So cover anything in your shop you don't want it to get on. And also I found with epoxy, with the overspray, it gets all over everything. So anything you don't want epoxy on, you gotta cover. This will help keep some of that down, but it's still gonna get out and get on stuff. So I've covered everything important to me. Let's take you underneath and show you what I'm shooting here. So I'm basically shooting, can you see that? Yeah, I'm shooting from this line down all the way, rockers and up into the rear quarters. I've sanded everything. The copper color is from when I acid etched the tub, which I would not recommend. I might talk more on that later in another episode, but basically I should have just either acid etched the seams where there was a lot of rust, like flash rust happening, or just cut those in with epoxy, seam sealed them, and then left them to epoxy the whole thing after my body work. I decided to just acid etch the whole thing, and you end up with flash rusting. So I've had to go through and sand everything. It ends up turning the metal either copper or black, depending on if you're using OSFO or metal prep and etch. And then, so it's kind of hard to tell from surface rust. So I've gone through and I've sanded everything. So it ended up being more work. So don't do that. I've also gone through and used Eastwood's internal frame coating to get up into these crossbar supports. They're not really cross members, but whatever you call them, the floor supports, and then up into the rocker panel and anywhere else where I can't really get a spray gun. For anyone unfamiliar with how the whole Raptor Liner mechanics work, it comes with a Schutz gun. I already had one from the previous job. And the kit comes with these bottles and enough hardener to go with these bottles. And essentially you put enough hardener per the ratio, and then you stick this in here and screw it on, and you're just shooting with almost like a siphon, old school siphon gun. I've put a regulator on it because the pressure you shoot with makes a huge difference in texture. So I'm gonna do some test shots before I actually go in and shoot it, try to get as fine a texture as I can, which is my preference. You can get a super chunky texture. This stuff is very forgiving, like it'll cover up little body work, and you don't have to like feather everything perfectly. Do the best you can, it'll end up with a better product, but it does cover up a lot of blemishes that paint absolutely would not cover. And then for the epoxy, it's just epoxy. There's nothing particularly controversial about it. This is a fill line for the hardener, so you don't have to do any measuring. You just pour it up to the fill line, put it in there, shake, 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 and then screw and go. Okay. Oh, for the epoxy, I'm gonna be shooting with my DeVilbiss FLG4 kind of an all-purpose gun. I've got a 1.8 tip on this. I've got a 1.2 and a 1.5 also, but I'm using this one because I've got the decups adapter, and decups, for those of you who don't know, is a spray system where you get these disposable liners. They drop in here, you get the cap on it, this goes on here, and then that goes onto that adapter. You squeeze out the air, and what it does is it allows you to shoot in any position. I'm gonna be shooting in a lot of awkward positions because I'm shooting up. So I didn't want to use a normal feed gun. I've got an ANZ primer gun that I'll probably use for anything where I'm shooting down. You'll notice paint guns like to shoot down. See, at a down angle, the cup is up. They don't like to shoot like this. So the cups system takes all that issue away. I put on my safety glasses. These have a diopter so I could read. The instructions say 1.4 to 1.7 millimeter tip for the epoxy, so I'm gonna change this from a 1.8 to a 1.5 actually. Shoot with that, and then, yeah, I've also got a full mask respirator, like this, cheap, on Amazon. It's not the 3M brand, but whatever. It works, and then I've got a Tyvek suit that I'll be putting on. Okay, I'll be back when the epoxy's on. And then after the epoxy, I'm gonna do seam sealer. Then I'm gonna epoxy over the seam sealer. Then I'm gonna do the Raptor Liner. Oh my goodness, I'm a sweaty mess. I've soaked this shirt through. This Tyvek doesn't breathe at all. The boots stay together most of the time. That just happened at the end, so I'll tape that back up before the next step. But let me take you in and show you how it looks. Well, there it is, all epoxied up and nice. Sprayed okay. 18 PSI was a little bit, or the 1.5 tip was not enough. I switched to a 1.8. It sprayed much better after that. So happy with it. Gonna let it flash off a little bit, and then we'll hit it with seam sealer. The seam sealer I'm using is this dual mix heavy bodied seam sealer from SEM. They have a million of these things. But anyway, I've used this successfully in the past, and you gotta have this special gun, which costs like 50 bucks. It's such a ripoff. But the product is so good, so much better than the seam sealers that came with these things 60 years ago. Anywho, yeah, I'll be back. Right, seam sealer is on. I don't really remember all the places it was from the factory, but anything I miss, I'm gonna hit from the top, and they say not to trap it, but if the water never gets in, it's a debate. I don't know. So I'm gonna wait for that to chooch. I don't have to, it's actually like 0 time to top coat, but I gotta go pick up my daughter. And then I'll hit those, just the seam seal parts with epoxy again. There's a couple parts that were light I saw when I was down there. And then Raptor. All right, it's done. I know you can't see it because of the contrast. I'll take you in for a closer look, and then I'll talk about just a couple of tips and tricks, and then we're gonna talk about body color. The light gives it some inconsistencies that if I turn the light off, like, you really don't see them in the real world scenarios. And the texture is nice and flaky, and it's all the way back through the bed. I ended up getting up into the firewalls pretty good, actually. I was worried about being able to get back there, but I managed. All right, let's talk tips and tricks and next steps. First of all, the 4-bottle Raptor Liner kit was more than enough to cover the entire underside of the Bronco and the wheel wells, and this side of the wheel well on top and up into the rear quarters. So 4 bottles enough. Actually, I finished with about half a bottle left. And so my advice, not being an expert, is first of all, I run at a very high PSI. I think it says 40 to 60, and I think I was at the upper end of that range, maybe even up to 75. I like the pattern it gives you. You should definitely spray it out with the different PSIs and see what pattern you like. My advice is on the, for the 3 bottles you're using to cover, just cover. Like, don't worry too much about getting the texture perfect. Just cover everything, and then come back with that last half bottle and really do fast sweeping motions as you're spraying. And it kind of goes back over the top and gives a much finer and more uniform texture. So that, I was really happy with the way that came out in the end. Again, mask anything, you don't want rubber stuff to get all over. It's all over the floor. Some people say put drop cloth down or whatever, but then it sticks to your shoes. And even my little paint booth was sticking to my shoes. So if you can tape it out of the way so it doesn't blow under, then that's your best bet. Okay, now I have a question for you guys. Let me lower the Bronco here. All right, I'm gonna ask for an opinion and I'm not gonna listen to it, but I'd love for you to give it to me anyway in the comments. So we've got the bed, right? Now I've closed all the holes. You can see the little marks and stuff. I can either A, line the whole thing front to back with Raptor Liner. I have enough. I have another 4-bottle set. B, I can rhino line just the bed up to, say, you know, like here-ish, and then have the front be body color matching. C, I can do all body color, front to back. And actually D, I can maybe just do the bed floor in Raptor Liner and then do the tubs in body color. I can actually top coat the Raptor Liner with my body color, but I don't love the way colored Raptor Liner looks. But yeah, so any combination, right? So like I said, paint on the wheel wells and then Raptor Liner. I could do painted Raptor Liner in the back and just paint in the front. I mean, there's just so many options, and I just wonder what you guys think looks the best. I'm going for kind of an original-ish feel of this Bronco on the outside, and stock-ish on the outside, even though it's not. So I just don't know. Open to ideas. Now let's talk about the engine bay, which is not up for negotiation. Okay, so you can see I brought the Raptor Liner up on the back and it's below this line, but I wanted, when you open the hood and look in the normal way, I don't want you to see Raptor Liner. I mean, I can see it over there behind the wheel well, but you know, who's standing here with the hood open, right? So this is gonna be body color. I'm gonna actually paint this body color now after I do some filler work, because I wanna be able to take this whole tub and put it on the chassis with the motor in place, and then I'm done under here. Like, this whole area will be done. The underneath's done. I just worry about the sides and the top for paint. I've already got the plastic on the chassis, so it's protected, and then I can just rip the plastic off when I'm done with everything. Like, strip it out from underneath the car. So that's the plan, and I think that's gonna work. There's really no issue with it. I just got to get in here and start doing body filler. The other reason for matching this to the reason I'm doing body filler under here is I don't like the waviness on these. Like, this is the first thing your eye goes to. So I want it to be fairly smooth, not perfect. Plus I need the practice. I suck at body work. So this is gonna show, let me see what comes through in terms of waviness, scratches, imperfections, so I can better do it on the actual parts you see every day. Which brings me to the color choice. So I would like for you in the comments to put a guess of what I'm going to choose, and or what you would like it to be. I've already chosen a color in my mind, okay? And I'll give you a hint. One of the words in the name no longer is. Good luck. See you next time on Matt's Garage.